Mesmerizing. It's Tim Shurr, and in our special CEO Secrets, we have one of the best leaders that you can have on this show. JeVon McCormick is with us. JeVon, welcome.
My man, Tim, what's going on, sir?
Oh, I'm so excited for our conversation today. So, JeVon McCormick is president and CEO of Scribe Media, which has helped almost 2,000 authors from a variety of backgrounds write, publish, and market their books. Entrepreneur Magazine ranked JeVon's company as the #1 top company culture in America. And JeVon was also recently awarded a very prestigious award, the 2021 Top CEO in Austin, which is a pretty big deal because there are a lot of very successful leaders that live in Austin. So, JeVon, I'm so excited to jump into that brilliant mind of yours and take a few laps.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I have to say though, being named the best CEO in Austin or whatever the award is, I tell people all the time, I'm only as good as the great people I get to serve and support. So the people that I serve and support are the reason why I was named that. So incredibly humbled and honored, but it's all about the people you serve and support.
Well, you said that the very first time we met, and I was really struck by that. And because that's what the best leaders say. They're always giving credit. They're always appreciating their team. They realize that you don't get anywhere by yourself, really. You may be the catalyst or have the vision, but the team is what makes the dream happen. And so what allowed you to develop that kind of philosophy and that kind of attitude of gratitude?
Well, it's interesting. So, Tim, you know this. Not a lot going on up here academically. So I may not even be using the word correctly, but philosophy, I don't even know that it's necessarily a philosophy. To me, it's just a way of life. Is a philosophy, in my opinion, is an opinion. And I truly believe that the way you find success in business is by putting people first.
Hmm.
A plan without execution is a worthless plan.
Hmm.
And so, yes, I can have a vision, I can have a plan, but you still have to have the people who can execute.
Yeah.
And it's not a philosophy to me. That's just the way of life, that the goal is to surround yourself with people far smarter than yourself, surround the company with people far smarter than yourself. I never want to be the smartest person in the room. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I don't find it. Some people find it necessary that they feel that they're the smartest person. I've never felt that. Probably because I'm not. I only have a GED, so I've never felt that I was the smartest person in the room. Anyway, my goal, what I'm responsible for, is to find people who are smarter than me that can execute the vision.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. Well, I have several friends that are multimillionaires and they barely finished high school, right? You hear a lot of stories about, that if you have the drive or you have a good idea or you continue to persist until you succeed and you have that attitude of helping other people feel valued and valuable and you give them meaningful work, you can build empires, which you have certainly done.
Totally.
Yeah.
It all goes back to the people. I even made the joke, if someone wanted to give me an award, the award should be for hiring practices. That, okay, we put a great hiring system in place. Give me that award.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that then. So when you're hiring someone, what's your process?
We've got a nice one thing. So you'll appreciate this. Statistically, we've run the numbers. It is easier to get into an Ivy League school than it is to get into Scribe. And we've
Wow.
run the statistics and the percentages on that.
Yeah.
And, so it's a 6-week process to get in here. But me personally, I don't look at resumes.
Mhm.
I sit and I want to have a conversation and listen to the person's character,
Mhm.
find out what questions do they have. You'll learn a lot from individuals based on the questions that they have. So I take the conversation based off of their questions. And a lot of people are shocked when I come into the room for the interview. I sit down and I say to people, okay, Tim, this is your party. What questions do you have for me? And
Mhm.
so many people are caught off guard because they're expecting the CEO is going to walk in the room and I'm going to start peppering them with questions. And I
Mhm.
don't have any questions at all other than what questions do you have for me? So
Yeah.
it's we're looking for your character and culture fit.
Yeah.
Most of the roles within our company, we can teach, coach, and mentor the skill set. So
Mhm.
we're looking for culture fit and your character, but because the skill set, we can teach, coach, and mentor that. And if you notice, I'm very specific. I never said train. We
Mhm.
don't train. If you want to train you can train your body. You can train a dog, train a horse.
Mhm.
We teach, coach, and mentor people. There's
Mhm.
more value, in my opinion, in teaching, coaching, and mentoring than just training someone.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, I like that. Someone else corrected me the other day. They said it was Greg, and he runs Tier One Performance, a mentoring company, a coaching company, and he said, I don't like the idea of taking it to the next level. He says, I think that it's a continuous process of growth and development. And then
Yeah.
I appreciated that. I thought that was great. So are there any particular strategies that you've used in addition to the hiring process and bringing on the right people who have the right character that you're looking for, the right set of values? Any other things that you feel have allowed you to be nominated and actually win that CEO award?
I'd say from a leadership perspective, one,
Mhm.
you've heard me say this. The role is to serve and support. If
Mhm.
you're in the CEO role or any leadership role for that matter,
Mhm.
your responsibility is to serve and support.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I just had someone this morning say to me they're new and they go, "Oh, I haven't had the chance to meet you yet. I believe you're my boss." And I go, "Nope, not me." I go, "I'm not anyone's boss." I go, "You may work with me, but I'm no one's boss.
Mhm.
I'm no more important to the organization than everyone within the organization. So no
Mhm.
one works for me. People work with me. So there's just a lot of that way of approach that I feel may have led to me winning the award. Um, here's another thing that we do as well, Tim, is we don't have direct reports. We have
Mm.
direct supports. So if you're in leadership, your role is to support. That's it. And so you serve and support those people that you serve, that you work with. So my role as CEO is to serve and support the organization. If
Yeah.
you're a director, your role is to serve and support the people that you directly work with. But we don't have who's your direct report. There's no top down here. It's actually flipped upside down. There's bottom up. As the CEO, I'm at the bottom of the foundation. That just means I
Mhm.
have the greatest responsibility to serve and support. And
Mhm.
if you go to our website, you go to most companies, and the about us page will first it'll show C-suite executives, founders, owners, all those good those people. We're
Mhm.
exact opposite. If you're coming to our website and you're looking for me, I'm at the bottom of the page. I want you to see all the people who actually execute on the work long
Yeah.
before you make it down to me. And again, I'm the foundation. My role is to serve and support all those individuals that you see before me.
Yeah. I mean, that's the secret to retention right there. If
Yeah.
there was one simple secret, it's make people feel so special and valuable that why would they want to go anywhere else?
Well,
You turn
okay,
them
so
into
Tim,
family.
you're going to appreciate this, and
Mhm.
and 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 even that you said that's the secret to retention. We're not looking to retain. If you look up the definition of retain,
Mhm.
it says to keep possession of. So we don't look
Oh,
to recruit and retain.
I
We look
see.
to attract and provide. We want to
Mm.
attract great talent and we want to provide meaningful work. We want to provide a great culture. We want to provide a safe, inclusive environment where everyone is welcome, regardless of race, regardless of religion, political stance. We want to welcome everyone. I make the joke because again, I got a GED. I told someone the other day, I go, I don't use pronouns. I go, I don't even recognize pronouns. And they were like, what? They thought I was being offensive. I go,
Uh-huh.
because I don't even know what a pronoun is. I go, so I see people for people. And, Tim, this, me growing up mixed race, half white, half black,
Mhm.
I knew what it was like to not be accepted.
Mhm.
So I'll be damned if we have a culture that doesn't accept people based on religion, based on gender, based on pronouns. Look, if you are human, we welcome you to our culture. And that's the essence of our culture. We look to attract and provide. I'm not looking to recruit and retain. I even make the joke too, Tim. I said, look, if you want a job, go there. If you want a career, come here.
Oh, so good. So good. Change the language and it changes the
Yes.
game. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I've been doing that in a variety of ways, as helping people to redefine instead of being like an HR director, you're a director of employee experience, but you're taking it to a whole other,
Totally.
a
Hey,
whole other
Tim,
level.
whole other level. Think of this, Tim, is as far as HR is concerned. The
Yeah.
term human capital. What are we doing? Are
Mhm.
we trafficking people? Like human
Mhm.
capital? No,
Yeah.
they're people. So
Right.
yes, I'm
Right.
very specific.
Yeah.
Again, growing up mixed race, I've been called Oreo
Mhm.
cookie, zebra, half breed.
Mhm.
So I've always said to people, what's that phrase? Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. And I go,
Mhm.
I disagree.
Yeah. Words
Words are
hurt.
very Words hurt, and words are very important. So we're very intentional on the
Yeah.
words that we use.
Mm. Mm. So good. So good. So you are a very in-demand keynote speaker, and because of your incredible charisma, and also because you have a very powerful message that everyone has a story. So tell us a little bit more about what you mean by that.
So when I was a kid, again, I keep referring back to it. My dad's black, my mom's white. I grew up mixed race in the '70s, and I know why my mom would say this to me. It was kind of, I guess, to protect me from the harshness of the world. And she would say to me, "Never judge anyone because everyone has a story, and you
Mm.
don't know their story."
Wow.
And I found that to be very powerful because, it's human nature. You see someone walk in a room, I don't care who you are, you immediately start judging.
Mhm.
Judgment is it's not always a negative, but if you see someone walk in the room, you may look at their outfit, oh, that's a nice suit, or oh, I like their hair. But you are judging. We're humans. It's just a natural instinct. And so my mom would say to me, never judge anyone because you don't know their story.
Mhm.
And same for me. If I walk into a room now and I have on a three-piece suit and $1,000 shoes, you may not take it upon yourself to think that, oh wow, his dad was a pimp and drug dealer and fathered 23 kids, his mom was an orphan, he doesn't know where his last name comes from, and he only has a GED. You may not take that judgment of me just based on my appearance. So again takes me back to the people aspect of this, is never judge anyone because everyone has a story and you don't know what their story is.
Mm. No. Yeah, that's really good. I was having that conversation yesterday with my 14-year-old, talking about some of the homeless people that were out, and we noticed there's one person and he sits on this one corner and I've never seen him not there. I think he lives right on that corner, and my son was like, you ever think that he just tries to get a job? I'm like, oh, you got to watch those judgments.
Yeah.
It's real easy to make a judgment call like that but you don't know their story and what they've been through. And so, yeah, very powerful. Everybody does have a story, and we've all been through some kind of big T or little T trauma. And
Yeah.
those traumas form beliefs in our unconscious mind, and those beliefs rule us at an unconscious level in ways that we don't even know are happening. So, yeah, so it's very powerful. So you call yourself a what's possible speaker, and anybody that's ever seen you will understand why. Because you just, are create possibility instead of being caught up in why you can't. You get caught up in why you can and what's possible. And so, do you think that attitude is what's allowed you to move from such humble beginnings, to where you are today?
100%. It's been such a blessing for me that if I could just see what's possible, then that for me always said, okay, if someone else did it or it exists, then that
Mhm.
means it's possible. And I remember 10 years old, Houston, Texas. My dad drove me through River Oaks, one of the most exclusive neighborhoods in the country. He drove me through River Oaks. I was 10 years old and I saw 10, 15, $30 million homes, and they were massive. What? And one family lived in these homes. These homes were bigger than the housing projects I was growing up in. But what it showed me was possibility. And I
Mhm.
remember in that moment at 10 years old saying to myself, okay, I'm going to have one of those houses one day. I didn't know how, I didn't know when, I didn't know how I was going to get it, but I made a commitment. Okay, I'm going to have one of those houses one day. And that became really the pillar for me, that what's possible. So you said it. I don't ever want to be referred to as a motivational speaker. I'm not looking to motivate anybody. I
Yeah.
want to show you what's possible. I want to show you that coming from my background of where I've come from in this country, that it's possible to succeed, that the things you want in life are possible, and to not make excuses. And some people will say to me, Tim, they're like, well, I'm not making excuses, but I'm giving you the reasons. And I'll say to them, well, reasons is a nice word for excuses. So I just, if it's possible, then I believe that I can go and achieve it. And I believe that's the big awareness, then belief
Yeah.
transfers over to, then you got to execute to go get it. You have to be aware of what's possible. You have to believe that you can go achieve what's possible, and then you got to go execute to make it possible. So
Yeah.
to your point, yeah. What's possible? If you can just show me what's possible, how can I go do it? And not only how can I do it, how can I do it better?
Yeah. And then did you seek out mentors for that, or how did you figure it out? I always feel like the best education I got in the beginning, and I went to school for psychology, but I felt like the best education I got for how to improve human behavior was from the library, and checking out audio programs from the masters of back in the day, and just listening to those cassette tapes, for hours and hours, for years and years. So how did you acquire the wisdom to go to that next level? You can have the dream, you can have the awareness, you can believe you're going to pull it off. You're willing to execute and put the work in and get feedback and correct on the fly. And then was it mentors that you found, or how did you start to build a lot of traction?
I didn't have any mentors per se, but I would always ask questions and I would pay attention to my surroundings, even how I grew up. Yes, it was harsh. Obviously, I grew up what I call U.S. poor, because poor in this country compared to other countries,
Yeah.
poor in this country is nice compared to other countries. But so yeah,
Yeah.
I grew up poor in the U.S., but I always paid attention to my surroundings. I always asked questions. I've
Yeah.
never been afraid of no. So,
Mhm.
if someone said no, rejections never bothered me. If you
Mhm.
already don't have anything and someone says no, well, you're right where you were starting. You didn't have anything
Mhm.
to begin with. But what
Yeah.
if they said yes?
Yeah.
So I've never been afraid to knock on every door. It was one of the things that really served me in sales.
Mhm.
If my role was to call on the Fortune 500 and I
Mhm.
call on the first company and that
Mhm.
person says no, my mind was, okay, I've got 499 more companies. Someone's going to say yes.
Mhm.
So I didn't have the mentors, Tim, but I was never afraid to ask questions. All you could tell me was no. Maybe you could tell me to go to hell, whatever it was, it was
Mhm.
still going to be no. But what
Mhm.
if you said yes? What if
Yeah.
you answered my question? Then I got new knowledge, and then
Yeah.
I paid attention. What were other people doing? How were they doing it? How were they saying it? How did they conduct themselves? So it just became a sponge of information of watching others, listening, asking questions. I mean, so much so, Tim, one of our values in our company is
Mhm.
ask questions. I've built
Mm,
a career out of asking questions.
mm,
Um, I stole this from my third grade teacher, Mrs. Dudek. She said that there is no such thing as a stupid or dumb question.
mhm.
And I took it literally, and I've
Yeah,
been asking questions ever since. And matter of fact,
yeah.
Tim, you'll appreciate this. I've had people challenge me on that, and they've said, "Well, that's not true. There is such a thing as a dumb or stupid question." I was like, "Well, give me an example." And they said, "What about someone who asked the same question over and over again?" And I
Mhm.
said, well, the same person who's asking the question over and over again is not the dumb or stupid person. The person who's answering the same question over and over again is the dumb or stupid person, because obviously you're not explaining yourself correctly, or this person's not getting it, or they don't care. So the person asking over and over isn't dumb or stupid. The person answering over and over again is dumb or stupid. But the question itself, no such thing as a dumb or stupid question. And again, I can't stress enough. I got a GED. I've built my career out of asking questions.
Wow. I love that. I've said something similar to that as well because I love questions and I welcome them all the time. And and yeah, that's right. A lot of times people, I'll be working with a manager and I'll say I get so frustrated because people will, ask the same questions over and over, and they're too lazy to learn. And I'm like, whoa, that assumption is what's holding you
Yeah,
back. Perhaps, and take this with a grain of salt, that you're too lazy to find a new way of communicating so that they would finally understand it.
exactly.
And
I
then they're
mean,
like, what?
yeah, because now accountability falls on them, and
Yes.
right now in our country, taking accountability, that's not a popular thing. We got to blame somebody else. So everyone here knows I will ask someone, a new person, or I'll
Yeah.
sit and I'll say, hey, what's your learning style? How do you learn best? Tell me,
Yeah.
so me as their direct support, me in leadership, my role is to support this person on how they learn best, not to tailor them to me. I'm the
Mhm.
person in leadership. I'm the person teaching, coaching, and mentoring. So
Yeah.
I've got to find out what is the learning style of this individual, to where the messages and knowledge that I'm going to share are best going to stick with this person.
Yes. Well said. In fact, I had read an article one time about a company, I forget who it was, but they had created one sheet user manuals for all their people. And because everything comes with a user manual. So what if you were going to have a conversation with someone and you could quickly pull up a user manual about, this is how I like to be communicated with, this
Right.
is what you can say that will cause me to never want to help you, and then you all of a sudden you know exactly how to approach that person. So I created my own version of a user one sheet manual, and yeah, it's very effective.
I've even been known, Tim, to have people. I'll pass out notepads and pens in meetings versus
Mhm.
laptops when
Mhm.
we take notes, and I'll say,
Mhm.
"Okay, here's something. Everyone, write this down,"
Mhm.
because it's proven. If you write something down,
Mhm.
there's a higher probability that you're going to remember it. So
Yeah, it
in
sticks.
meetings,
Mhm.
if I've got to share something that I find important, or I find that I want the tribe members to, we call ourselves a tribe,
Mhm.
the tribe members to remember, then I'll pass out notepads and pens and say, okay, everyone write this down.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's the Scribe tribe.
The scribe tribe, you nailed it. Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. So you wrote this great book. It's called I Got There: How a Mixed Race Kid Overcame Racism, Poverty, and Abuse to Achieve the American Dream. So, what's the main message that you want readers to walk away with after reading your book?
Much of what what we've been talking about, what's
Hmm.
possible, the
Yeah.
lessons that I took from life. I mean, there's everything in there, from when I was sexually molested by one of my dad's prostitutes, to the
Hmm.
times that I got left for 3 weeks with my siblings. We got left in Dayton, Ohio, in a house for 3 weeks,
Oh
and
my
no
gosh.
one came for us, and the lessons of belief, the lessons that I took away from it. I personally believe, even in the most ugly circumstances, there's a lesson to be learned.
Hmm.
You heard me just reference right now being sexually molested. I remember on one of those occasions with my dad's prostitute, I remember saying to myself, okay, I am never going to be in a position where I don't know what to do.
Hmm.
And that for me was a positive takeaway, because
Hmm.
from then on I was trying to figure out, okay, what do I need to do? How do I need to conduct myself? How do I need to position myself? But I was always looking on where do I need to be? What do I need to do? So I'm
Hmm.
not in a position where I don't know what to do. So for me, I've always looked for what's the positive, or what's the lesson to be learned in this dire situation. So coming away from the book, for me, it really is, what would I want people to take away? What's possible,
Yeah.
especially in this country. Regardless of me being sexually molested, me being left, not knowing where my last name comes from, how I came into the world. Fact of the matter is, there's a family on the US border right now down in Texas and Mexico that just walked 1,100 miles from Honduras, and they're trying to get into this country to create an opportunity for themselves. On my worst day, I've never had to face that. So for me, my outlook on life has always been, I was born here, I have a responsibility to be successful. Do we have shortcomings in this country? Yes. Do we have flaws? Yes, of course. No country in the world. Every country has shortcomings and flaws. So we
Hmm.
have them here as well. But I'm not going to allow those shortcomings and flaws of the country that we have to keep me from being successful, and not watching and seeing that, wow, although there are shortcomings that and flaws in this country, oh, this is still the greatest place to create opportunity for yourself and become successful.
Mm. So good. So good. It's I'm not sure exactly when this well, we are streaming live, but the audio version of this interview will come out later. But tomorrow is Veterans Day, and for 30 years, 32 years, I've been trying to figure out how to get rid of anxiety and insecurity and those deep fears that we're not good enough, and because we're not enough, we won't be loved. And so many people, more people than not, have been through what I call big T and little t traumas, including a lot of physical, sexual, and verbal abuse. And what I've learned from helping thousands of people is just what you said. It's not the experiences that affect us, it's as much as the beliefs that come from those experiences. We form these unconscious beliefs in our mind. And if we have a belief that I'm not safe, or you can't trust people, or the world is against you, or you're not worthy of being loved, that influences you 10, 20 years later. And all of a sudden you can't hold a job, or you're terrible with money, or you're 100 pounds overweight, or your marriage is awful, and all these different things. And so when you said, you went through that experience, and the belief that came from it was that I'm going to make sure that I'm prepared so that I'm never in a situation like this again. You used it, you transformed the experience into a belief that empowered you. And that's what my program, the Awakening Program, does. It upgrades those unconscious beliefs and frees people from that needless emotional suffering. So very
It's
powerful.
I appreciate you said that, Tim, because the other piece that I've realized as well is so much of our life, if not all of it, is choice. As a kid, I didn't have a choice on who I was born to. Who my
Yes.
dad was, who my mom was. But
Yes.
as I became an adult, I had a choice. Was I
Hmm.
going to stay in a situation where I allowed my mind to keep me trapped because, oh my God, my dad was a pimp, and he had 23 kids, and my mom was an orphan, and I was sexually abused. And I realized it was my choice. I can live in that, or I can say, look, I can't change that. I got to move forward. I got to set this down. I got to move forward. And so much for me in life was choice. You can, when the alarm clock goes off in the morning, it starts right here. Do you choose to push snooze, or do you choose to get up? Do you choose to wake up positive, or do you
Hmm.
choose to wake up timid and meek?
Hmm.
I'm a big believer in this. I don't believe that confidence is built. I believe confidence is a choice. When I was a kid, at times, all I had was confidence, because confidence was free. It didn't
Hmm.
cost anything, and so
That's
confidence was
funny.
a choice.
Huh.
And so I choose to be positive. I choose to see the positive things in this world. We all know that again, shortcomings, flaws, negativity, all that's out there. We know it's out there. So I don't live in a world of rose-colored glasses, especially
Mhm.
with the way I was raised. But I
Mhm.
do choose to find the positives and find ways to succeed and create the life that I want versus choosing to stay stuck in a mentality that's not going to do anything for me.
Yeah. I think it's a blend because a lot of times, we will look at people and we'll say you're just not making good choices. But a lot of times it's because of the unconscious beliefs that are still in their mind that often they're not even aware of, that aren't even there. I have a client that weighed almost 300 pounds, right? And telling her to, being a top hypnotist, people always came to me over the years to stop smoking and lose weight. And so she said, I don't think that this was ever going to work for me. I'm over 50 years old. I've been trying to lose weight for my whole life. That doesn't work. And so do you think you could just make me a happy fat person? And then she started crying. And I knew that that's not really what she wanted. And yet she didn't know how to, make those choices and keep making them and get herself to keep following through. And it wasn't until she recognized that she had an unconscious belief that she didn't feel like she was worthy of being loved because she had a really terrible relationship with her dad. So she could never really love herself or take care of herself because it felt like it was wrong to do that. And so no matter how many choices she made, she still kept finding herself getting stuck until we upgraded those beliefs. When we upgraded those beliefs and we changed the game, and her whole life surrounded around making loving deposits into my health and happiness account, she dropped 154 pounds in 10 months. She's kept it off for the last 6 years now. And it's because we are upgrading those beliefs. So it's both. We got to upgrade the beliefs and we've got to make those decisions and choices every single day.
You know,
Yeah.
I don't disagree at all, and I greatly appreciate that you use the word beliefs. You and I talked about this before. I don't do three words I eliminated from my childhood when I was a kid: hope, wish, and luck.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
replaced those words with belief
Mhm.
because when I was a kid and I would hope my dad would come pick me up, he never showed. When I
Mhm.
would hope there was something to eat when I got home, it never
Mhm.
produced anything. So I stopped hoping and I changed it for belief because belief forces execution. If you believe you can lose 30 pounds, then you got to go execute to lose the 30 pounds. You can't just hope. I hope I lose 30 pounds. Well, okay, what are you doing? Um,
Right. Right.
and Tim, you and I
Right.
talked about this, but you got to let me share it. So, I'm a God guy, and a good friend of mine, Brother Smith. Brother Smith and I are talking one time, and he says to me, he goes, "Man, I can't take hope out of my sermon." I said hope 16 times last Sunday. And I said, "Okay, Brother Smith, do you want me to hope there's a God, or do you want me to believe there's a God?" And Tim, he looks at me. Keep in mind, he's a pastor. He looks at me and he goes, "Damn, I've never
Yeah.
thought of it that way." And I said, "Look, if I just hope there's a God, I don't
Yeah.
have to commit to a godly lifestyle. But if I
Right.
believe, I've got to execute a godly lifestyle." So
Yeah.
I replaced hope with believe, and then wish.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, Tim, wish is just a dirty word. I mean, I've got 4 kids,
Yeah.
and so we have a lot of birthdays at the house. My kids are what, 8, 6, 4, and 3 now.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so when the birthday cake hits the table and it's time to blow out the candles at the McCormick house, we don't make a wish. We make a goal because you
Yeah.
can wish all day and it's not producing anything. You want to
Yeah.
drive through the nice neighborhood and wish you had the big house, wish you got the promotion, wish you had more money. Never going to produce anything. So I teach my kids to make a goal because if you make a goal, again, you've got to go execute to make that goal happen. And then lastly, luck. Tim, that's just they should just take that word out of the English language. Hope people have said to me, "Well, what about the as far as luck? What about the lottery winner that won the $100 million? Were they lucky?" And I go, "No, they executed. They bought a ticket."
That's right.
So
That's right.
I
That's
hope,
right.
wish, and luck. I don't do those words.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. We are both wordsmiths. I mean, we really pay
Yes.
attention to words and the values and or the the energy connected to those words and how those words will affect other people emotionally. And so, we're always updating our language. And when you update your language and you update how you're describing your experiences, then it updates your experiences. And so I agree. Hope is a great way of rallying us to be able to feel like there is that there is a way out of whatever struggle or pain that we're in, that things are going to go the way that we want them to. But hope is not an effective strategy, right?
No.
So, hope is gives us maybe the inspiration that it's possible, like what you would say, it's possible that we can cause this to become a reality, but you still have to take action, consistent action. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting too. I appreciate you said that, because I feel like, especially in the lower economic communities,
Mm-hmm.
I can speak for me, the lower economic Black communities.
Mm-hmm.
Hope has been preached for so long.
Mm-hmm.
Hope.
Mm-hmm.
Hope's not showing up.
No.
So we've got to believe, and we've got to execute. If we believe that there's a better way, if we
Yeah.
believe that we can have more, if we believe we deserve more, we've got to believe and execute. But hope has been pushed into the lower economic communities for so long that I'm like, okay, hey, everyone, hope's not coming. Okay. We got to
Yeah.
believe, so we
Yeah.
can rise above our circumstances and get the hell out of here.
Yeah. If you got seeds in your pocket, you can hope all day they're going to they're going to grow, but until you put them in the earth,
Right.
they can't. And
Yep.
so, yeah, you're right. I mean, hope and other words like that are manipulations more than anything else. And
Yep.
so I'm glad you're calling that out. That's good. So let me see here. So when we first met, I remember I was introduced to you as JT McCormick, right?
Yeah.
Which is great, And then once we became friends, I started asking you. So I noticed, you referenced yourself as JeVon. So what do you want me to call you? And you had said, after the experiences that happened with George Floyd, that you decided that you wanted to use your full first name again. And I admired you, but it also hurt my heart because, the racism behind it of why you wouldn't want to call yourself JeVon. And
Yeah.
so, when I see stuff like that, any kind of unconscious bias or racism or anything like that, I call it out so that we can talk about it,
Yeah.
so that we can work it out, right? And hopefully get beyond it. So I think just about anybody that grew up in the 70s probably is racist in some way. It's just like I always said, I was a non-practicing racist because there was so much of it growing up in my world when I was growing up and I didn't even know, it didn't matter who it was. We were always ridiculing and sarcastic to
Yeah.
everybody. And so, but as I got older and I started learning more, I was like, oh, this is not right. So tell me a little bit about that decision.
So you know it. I grew up in the 70s, and I would, even now, I joke with people. I go, look, you want to have a diversity conversation? I'm mixed race. Let me tell you what it's like when Black people don't like you because you're half white, and white people don't like you because you're half Black, and you
Yeah.
just don't fit in anywhere.
Yeah.
But when I started my career, early 90s, and I was trying to get on people's calendars, trying to get a job, and this is long before you submitted your resume online.
Mm-hmm.
And so one gentleman, white guy, and I'll be forever grateful to him. He picks up the phone and he says to me, he goes, "Hey, how did you get a Black first name, JeVon, and an Irish last name, McCormick?" And what was interesting is again, my last name comes from my mother. She received the last name in the orphanage. She doesn't know where, why, how we got this last name. She was raised in a institutional orphanage back in the 50s. Doesn't know who her parents are. So I've got this last name to this day. I have no clue where it comes from. So I was excited when he said Irish last name, because I was like, oh, sweet, I got an Irish last name. But when I hung up from the call,
Yeah.
it hit me. I was like, oh, he said Black first name. People aren't giving me a call and people aren't talking to me because of my Black first name. So
Mm.
my full name is JeVon Thomas McCormick. And
Yeah.
that was my theory. I said, well, let's test the theory.
Mm-hmm.
So then I edited myself and I started going by JT McCormick, Javon Thomas. So I'd go by JT McCormick. Oh, Tim, the next week, man, calendar, appointments, schedule just blew up. And so
Wow.
I had all kinds of appointments. And when I would show up, people weren't expecting the brown guy to show up. So, but from the early 90s up until the George Floyd murder, I went by JT McCormick. So my whole career was built off of JT McCormick.
Yeah.
But when I was watching the George Floyd murder and everything that took place afterwards, especially the excuse my language, Tim, the bullshit virtue signaling, we were arguing over a syrup bottle. I'm thinking to myself, okay, what change is that going to bring? And we were, people were saying, oh, Blackout Tuesday on social media. And I'm like, okay, what change is that going to bring? So you blacked out your Twitter. Woohoo, thank you. But then what jumped out to me is I saw an article that said that there were only 3 Black Fortune 500 CEOs. And it caught my attention. I was like, huh, who's that? So I go and look up their names.
Mm-hmm.
Roger Ferguson, Marvin Ellison, Kenneth Frazier.
Wow.
And as a bonus, the wealthiest Black man in America is named Robert Smith.
Oh my
And,
God.
and immediately I'm like, oh,
Wow.
okay. 4 ethnic free names, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I said to myself, okay, I'm not a Fortune 500 CEO, but I made it to the CEO chair. I'm the majority equity holder of our company. We've been named the #1 place to culture in America. So I said, okay, I've got a few little accomplishments. So I said to myself, I'm going to start going by JeVon again.
Yeah.
And Tim, it wasn't for me that I made that decision. I made that decision for every kid that's named Rayvante, Martavius, Laquanda, Lucretia, because I wanted them to see that, hey, you know what? A JeVon made it to the CEO chair. And I had this belief that maybe one day when you go into the workplace, you can work next to a JeVon and not just a JT. So I did it for all of those kids and all of those individuals who have the quote unquote ethnic names, because for me, I built my name and career on JT, but I found it important to reclaim my name and start going by JeVon.
Good for you. Good for you. I have a good friend, Carrie Lafke, and she is that director of employee experience that I mentioned before. And we were talking about that. And she said, I don't even look at names anymore, just in case my mind even tries, to have anybody. I don't want to know anybody's name because I don't want any of that to happen. I want to judge people on their character, not on a name that somebody gave them that they had no control over or something that pushes a button inside of me. And so I love that. Everybody needs more good role models. And so I know that you are definitely one of them. So
I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. So you are passionate about conscious entrepreneurism as well, and creating opportunities for at-risk youth, which I also admire. So you have been mentoring young men and women in the juvenile justice system, as well as those in lower economic communities. So can you tell us about those experiences and what you're finding that some of our youth are struggling with these days?
It's not even the youth. It's really lower economic communities as a whole, especially minority communities, because you don't know what you don't know. If you heard me say earlier, going through the neighborhood at River Oaks, that was very influential for me because I didn't even know those houses existed. And so right now, for me, here were my options as a kid: rapper, athlete, drug dealer. No one told me about entrepreneurship. No one said that I could be an executive of a company. And so for me, mentoring high-risk youth, mentoring low economic communities is really just trying to show what's possible. I mean, think about this, Tim, just from a food standpoint, we all have to eat, but just think about this. In low economic communities, more often than not, they can tell you what a food desert is, meaning there's no grocery stores within those communities, but they can't tell you what organic food is. That's sad. And so how are you supposed to, as a child, as a person, aspire to be something that you don't even know exists?
Right.
Give me this, if you will, Tim. Think about this one. And a lot of people don't like this example, but damn it, it's the truth.
Okay.
If you have a lot of young men and women, specifically minority men and women,
Hmm.
standing on a street corner selling drugs from sunup to sundown. And
Hmm.
every drug dealer knows the first rule. The first sample is free because we want you to get hooked and keep coming back. So the
Hmm.
first sample is free. So drug dealers are out there passing out that free sample because they want you to get hooked.
Yep.
Now, here's what's interesting. What if I went and told some of these kids, I said, hey, I will pay you 6 figures a year. I'll give you a company car. I'll give you an expense account on an American Express, a laptop, a cell phone. And if you're really good at the end of the year, we'll give you a big bonus and we'll even give you an award and clap for you on stage for being successful at handing out free samples. That's called a pharmaceutical rep. How do these kids even know that exists when no one's there to tell them?
Yeah.
And I get so many people, mainly people in the suburbs who don't know those communities. They'll make
Hmm.
stupid comments such as, "Oh, well, that's the parents' responsibility." While that comment may be true, most, if not all, of these kids, their parents don't even know to teach these
Hmm.
lessons.
That's right.
And
That's right.
again, you can't blame the child for what they were born into. I didn't ask
Hmm.
to be born into my situation. So the
Right.
whole pull yourself up by the bootstraps, okay,
Oh,
great.
I hate
But
that.
at least from the
Yeah.
beginning, let's show them
Yeah.
what's possible. Because if I
Yeah.
show you what's possible, yeah, it may be hard to achieve it, but at least you know what's possible. These
Yes.
kids in these communities, they don't even know what's possible. So
Yes.
so how am I supposed to aspire to be something when I don't even know what's possible or what's out there?
Yeah. That is exactly right. And your example with the drug rep is spot on. And how can and it, that's why again people have to be aware of their judgments and their assumptions. As it says, don't throw rocks when we all live in glass houses. And so I have a friend that focuses on trying to get rid of food deserts, right? And so he had a lot of assumptions that he didn't even realize that he had. He would go into some of these low income communities and he would see that the parents were overweight, the kids were overweight, all they drank was 2 liters of cola. They didn't drink anything else because and you're making all these assumptions about, well, your kids are having type 2 diabetes because you're not being a good parent and making them drink water. No one ever told them that soda was bad for them.
Right.
Now we can sit here and think, well, everybody knows that. No,
No.
that's false.
No.
Not
That's
everybody
false.
knows that. Right.
Not not
And
only not
so
only that, Tim, but think of it from this perspective, and this is something that other people don't consider, is in those lower economic communities, there's usually fast food places. So if I don't have that much money, I'm generally eating from the dollar menu. I'm going to the dollar
yeah,
store. There's not
that's
healthy
right.
options there for me to
No.
even
Right.
know there's an alternative option. So again, so many people will pass judgment but not understand that I don't even have any other options. If I have $5 and 2 kids and I got to make this $5 stretch, okay, we're all getting something off of the dollar menu and that's going to be dinner.
It was interesting because my son asked me when he was a lot younger. We would see people that were homeless, or we would see people that obviously didn't have a lot of money, and many times they were overweight. And he's like, "How can you have no money and be overweight?" And I said, "It's because of
The dollar menu.
the that's right, the crappy food choices that you have
Yeah,
available to you, and you got to do what you got to do, and to survive." This isn't even about improving my health. This is how do I survive?
right.
So, yeah, the whole system still continues to be broken. And so we've got to keep educating and empowering and having role models and having people who, make it and then go back to where they were, came from and mentor and coach and inspire and help people know that there are other options because you can't fix what you're not aware of.
Yeah,
So,
it's you nailed it, Tim. You got to go back. I know for me, I'm not obligated. I have a responsibility to go back and teach the things that I learn. I know things now that those communities don't know, and
Yeah.
I have a responsibility. Denzel Washington said it best:
Mm,
"Each one, teach one." And that's the
mm.
responsibility that I feel that I have is I have to teach others the things that I know, pass this
Yeah.
knowledge down, and say, "Hey, they never told us about entrepreneurship. They never told us we could be executives. Guess what? There's this whole other world out there. Capitalism is this incredible thing that changed my life. And, capitalism, it's not a demon. It's not a bad thing. Capitalism can change your life. So, but if you don't know that's possible, how are you supposed to even aspire to go get it?
Mm. You know, Jay-Z, and I think this is the very first time I've ever quoted Jay-Z, me personally, but Jay-Z, when he became a co-owner of a football team, people blew him a lot of crap for that. And I thought he is showing what's possible,
Yeah.
right? He's breaking another glass ceiling and showing what's possible. And when someone sees what's possible, when a young black boy sees what's possible and watches Jay-Z and says he can own a football team, I can own a football team.
Yep.
I was like, good for you. Right.
It,
And so, yeah.
I love that, Tim, because when I go and I talk to the youth sometimes, and I do this not to be arrogant, because I don't need to go back to the lower economic communities to be arrogant,
Mhm.
but I'll lead my conversation. I'll say, look, hey, here's the thing. I live in a gated community. I've got a really big house. I've made tens of millions of dollars in my career, and I'll show them my expensive watch, the car, the shoes, so on and so forth.
Mhm.
And then I'll go and I'll say, and guess what? I'm not a rapper, I'm not an athlete, and I'm not a drug dealer.
Oh
And you will see their looks. They're like, and it's always the next question is this. Well, then what are you? They don't
right.
even know. And so I go into it, and they're like, I didn't even know that was an option. And
Oh,
and so
got chills.
that's the key is that they can see someone who has achieved the quote unquote, a lot of it material success. But when you're poor, that's those are the things that you're looking at. I don't
Yeah.
kid myself when I'm speaking to the kids. I know what really drives them and excites them. So I
Yeah.
lead with that. But
Yeah.
when I tell them I'm not those three things, they have
Yeah.
no clue. I go, what do you think I am? They have no clue. And
Oh,
Tim, listen, here's the last one.
so
Here's
powerful.
what's real funny when I'm talking to these kids. I said, okay, tell me who you think is wealthy. Tell me who
Mm,
you think is just incredibly wealthy. And they'll say Drake or Little Wayne, or maybe they'll throw out an athlete's name. And
yeah.
so we'll say Drake.
Mhm.
And I'll say to them, because I'm in Austin, Texas,
Mhm.
and I'll say to them, I said, okay, on a good day, let's just say hypothetically, Drake's worth $300 million. I said it's probably a little more than he's worth, but let's give him 300 million. I
Mm,
said Michael Dell. I said he's the founder of Dell Computer, founder of laptops, things that I said, and he's here in Austin. He lives here. I said
mhm.
Michael Dell is worth $50.3 billion. I said, do you realize that Drake is the point three in Michael Dell's wealth? I said, when you start to think on a different level. Think big. See, it takes the same amount of effort to think small as it does
Mm,
to think big. So don't
mhm.
think Drake. Think Michael Dell. Think
Mm,
Elon Musk. Think
mm,
Bill Gates. Think
yeah.
Robert Smith. Robert Smith's a billionaire.
Mhm.
And that again, they don't even know what's possible or to that they can even think that big because their mind only knows, okay, Drake. Drake's rich, Drake's wealthy. Drake's the point three in Michael Dell's $50.3 billion.
Wow. And probably never heard of Robert Smith,
Nope.
which I'm sure completely blows their mind.
Complete and blows their mind even more that it's a black man and he also
Right.
lives here in Austin, Texas.
Does he
And
really?
yeah, he lives here in Austin as well. And so they're like, what? I said, yeah, the wealthiest black man in America lives in Austin, Texas.
Oh, I just got chills up and down. Wow. Oh my gosh. So good. So good. Wow. So you, my friend, are the definition of mesmerizing. And this conversation was so good, and we got to keep having more of them, because I love your message and I love how you are delivering it, and I want to help you to continue to get it out to as many people as humanly possible. So let's think big on how we can do that in even more of an impactful way. And so tell us, how can people learn more about you and Scribe Media? How can people find you?
Wow. Scribe Media, that one's easy. Scribemedia.com, tell you everything you want to know about our company. You know, as you said, we've helped over 2,000 authors write, publish, market their books. If you're looking for me personally, I engage a lot on LinkedIn, you know, because of the business aspect of it. And more importantly, on LinkedIn, what I'll do as well, Tim, I find it interesting in our society that we'll say, we all said this at one time or another, we learn the most from our mistakes. Here's what I find interesting: no one shares their mistakes. We can go to any blog post,
I do
all this,
all the time.
and here's what's crazy, Tim. You can find the top 5 things Elon Musk did to be successful, top 10 things that Steve Jobs did to be successful. Man, can someone give me the top 10 mistake list? I want that list. So I share my mistakes with people on LinkedIn. You know,
Brilliant.
It's for all the success that I've had. Oh my God, as a first-time president of a software company, the mistakes that I made. Before my wife, I've been with my wife 10 years now. Before my wife, I couldn't hold a relationship. I was a monster. I was an absolute just beast, had no clue how to treat women. I was disrespectful. And I share that, you know, because how if we're supposed to learn from our mistakes, the goal is to learn, grow, and don't repeat the mistakes. And so I share my mistakes.
That's so good. Dr. Willie Jolly is a friend of mine, and he said that that he was watching 2 different speakers, and one was writing, you know, was very successful and talking about how successful he was, and these are the ways that made me successful, and I can make you successful too. And he was writing down all these notes. And he said, and then there was another gentleman that came on, and this gentleman talked about all his failures and how the lights went out and the power was shut off, and he had to go to the electric company and beg the woman to turn the lights on because his little girls were going to freeze to death. And then how he got through that. And he said, that person I could relate to, you know, and I remember his name to this day, you know, and I don't even remember the first speaker and who he was because I couldn't relate to him. And so, you know, trying to be polished and perfect. What I love about you is that you're so authentic, you know, and you just share openly, you know, some very deep wounds, and that they don't have power over you anymore. And that's a huge message for people to understand, that we don't have to be, you know, trapped by our wounds of the past, that we can free ourselves. So you've been absolutely amazing. I look forward to our next conversation, and thanks again for being on the show today.
Tim, thank you, sir. I appreciate it.